This happened a couple of years ago, and even now I still think about it sometimes. It started slowly, just weird stuff happening around our house, but it built up into one of the scariest moments that I've ever had. We lived in a 3-story home, and my family tends to stay up late. One night, around 3 a.m., my uncle stepped outside to throw out the trash. But later, he told us that as soon as he got out there, he felt this strong sense of being watched. He looked around and saw my mom's van parked in the driveway. The darkness around it was thick, but he was sure that he saw somebody sitting inside. The windows were tinted, so he couldn't make it out clearly, but the feeling was strong enough that it stayed with him. Around that same time, my mom started noticing weird stuff with her car. Things moved around, random items were missing, and one day, she found a beer bottle inside it. She knew it didn't belong to any of us. She used to leave her car unlocked because we all trusted the neighborhood. But after that, she started locking it every time. I slept on the 3rd floor and my window faced the front of the house. At night, I started hearing sounds, light footsteps, and distinct clicking from outside. We had cement stairs leading up to our front porch, but a few of the steps were loose. And when somebody stepped on them, they made a loud, specific sound. You can't really mistake it for anything else. At first, I assumed it was my other uncle who's younger and goes out to party or club almost every night. He comes home at all hours, so late night noises were not that weird. But something about these sounds felt different, a lot slower. Almost like whoever it was trying not to be heard. That's what started to bother me. One night after watching a scary movie, I didn't want to sleep alone, so I made a little spot on the floor in my grandma's room. She had a security monitor with a feed showing our driveway. I glanced at it while trying to fall asleep, and I saw something that made me really scared. A tall man was standing at the edge of the camera's view, just standing there. I blinked a few times, thinking that maybe I was imagining it, but he didn't go away. I grabbed my phone and messaged our family group chat to ask if anybody had just gotten home, because sometimes people do come in late. But everybody responded saying that they were either already inside or still out. I looked back at the monitor. He was gone. That moment stuck with me, but nothing else happened right away. Then came the day I will never forget. It was about a month later. I had stayed home from school and was the only one in the house. Everyone else was at work or in class. It was a quiet afternoon around 2 p.m., and I was just lying in bed scrolling TikTok when I heard a man's voice and the faint hum of a small engine. I looked out my window and saw a golf cart parked in our driveway with a man in a blue shirt standing next to it. He didn't look especially threatening, but there was something about him that felt off. None of our family's cars were home, and nobody was supposed to be visiting. I tried calling my mom, who works at a hospital, but she didn't answer. So, I called my stepdad and asked him if somebody was supposed to be coming by. He said no. I told him what I saw, and his voice got serious. He told me to keep watching and to let him know if there were any updates. Not long after, my mom called back. The moment I explained it to her, she told me to call the police right away. I called 911 and told them everything. The dispatcher told me to hide. But before I did, I had this terrible feeling. I wasn't sure if anybody had locked the doors before leaving that morning, so I ran downstairs. The front door was locked, but when I got to the back door, it was wide open. I slammed it shut and locked it as fast as I could. And almost immediately after I shut it, the doorknob began rattling hard. Someone was trying to get in. I looked back and saw him. He was shirtless, tall, and not the same man I had seen in the driveway by the golf cart. He looked skinnier and just off, like something wasn't right with him. He was yanking the handle like he had just missed getting in. I honestly felt like he knew I had just locked it. I turned and sprinted up the stairs, locked myself in my parents' room, and stayed on the phone with the 911 dispatcher the whole time. I was shaking so hard I could barely speak. Every second felt like forever. The police arrived a few minutes later to search the house and the property, but there was no one there. No man in a blue shirt, no shirtless guy, and best of all, no signs of a break-in. They reviewed the security footage, but it didn't show anything helpful. The man in the driveway had stayed far from the camera's center, and the back angle was too dark to catch anything clearly. Just weird movement on the edges. It was like they knew exactly where not to be seen. To this day, I still don't know who they were or if they were working together. Was one of them watching while the other one tried to get in? I try not to think about it too much, but sometimes I do. And what if I hadn't locked the back door on time? Just a few weeks ago, I went back to visit the neighborhood after we had moved. I looked down our old street and saw a golf cart. Same sound, same shape, same look. I didn't wait around to see who was driving it. I was home alone between school and work one day. I was 17 at the time and my mom was at work. I was doing my makeup and hair for work, eating some food and watching some TV before I had to head out. Suddenly, I heard a loud knocking at what I thought at the time was the door. At this point, it was around 1 p.m. in the afternoon. My mom occasionally came home for lunch around this time, so I figured it was her at the door since I parked crooked in front of the garage. I heard the knocking again and hurried out of my room, figuring she was angry, since she always tells me not to block the garage. I got to the peephole and looked out, but she was not there. Confused, I went to grab my phone to call her to ask if she needed me to move my car. To set the scene a little, my front door opens into the living room. Then, it's a super open living room and kitchen area. So, walking from the front door to my room, I could see out the big window in the kitchen. I heard the loud knock again, and this time realized that it was coming from the window, but I didn't see anything since the curtains and blinds were covering it up. A few months prior to this, we saw some younger teenage boys messing around our backyard. In all seriousness, I figured it was them again. So, I went to open the window to tell them to go before I called their parents. Once I opened the blinds, my heart dropped. All I saw was the corner of a black t-shirt and the arm of a man. It was very obvious that it wasn't the 12 to 14-year-olds that we saw earlier that week. It was a grown man. I grabbed my dogs, ran into my room, and locked the door. I'm not sure why, but I didn't call the cops. I just called my mom on my way to work. Let's just say my mom was beyond freaked out and scared of what could have happened to me. The next day, she looked at our neighborhood app. The first post was an update on the string of robberies throughout the neighborhood. The guys come dressed in all black, get into your backyard, pound on your windows, waiting to see if someone's home, and if not, they break in or pick the lock. Up until I opened the blinds, I didn't look outside or answer the doors whatsoever. If I hadn't decided to check that time, they most likely would have broken in. Basically, in this post on the app, they stated that the men had finally been caught that morning. The same day after knocking on my windows 30 minutes after seeing me and leaving my house, they broke into a house in the neighborhood next to ours, which had a security system that silently alerted the authorities. My mom put up cameras all throughout the front and backyard after that incident. I still get freaked out thinking about what would have happened if I didn't open the blinds and if those men broke into my house. This happened 2 years ago. There was a normal day on the weekend, and I happened to be home alone. I went about my business as usual and planned on just chilling and watching some movies for the night. I was used to being home alone, so I wasn't afraid at all. After all, I took precautions every time, and nothing remotely suspicious happened until then. At one point, I went on a walk as usual at midday. I usually have my headphones in, and at first I didn't notice that somebody was following me. But in the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of what seemed to be a silhouette that was matching my footsteps. The person was walking alongside me on the other side of the pavement, synchronizing their movements with mine while watching me. I gathered the courage to face the person. There was an ordinary-looking man, seemingly in his 40s. There was nothing odd, creepy, or unusual about him, besides the look on his face, which was emotionless, stiff, and haunting somehow. I could only bear to look at him a few seconds, as his glance was really unsettling. I continued walking while turning off my music player to be more aware of my surroundings. I kept my headphones in, though, as I didn't want to tip him off that something was wrong. Out of the blue, he turned and started walking towards me. My heart was pounding, but I didn't stop walking. He got close and then said something to me. He asked how my mother was doing. Even though a creeping sensation was taking over me at the bizarre question as I didn't know him, I took my headphones out and asked him to repeat. He repeated the question, and I said my mom was fine and asked him how he knew her since I had never seen him before. He evaded the question and said that he hoped her and my grandparents solved their family issues, which couldn't have been known about since our family keeps their business private, especially from strangers. I was really nervous as I refused to respond and avoided eye contact with him. I couldn't make out his features very well, since I was determined not to look him straight in the face, and I walked faster, taking a different route back to my house. I looked behind once again and saw him in the same spot, but now he was smiling, and it was creepy. Every inch of my body told me to run, but I refrained, thinking that he would be excited by this challenge of chasing me down. I got home and sent my mom a message providing this guy's description to see if she knew him. She didn't reply, but somehow I managed to calm down by the end of the day. I watched some movies like I had planned, and by the time I went to bed, I almost forgot about the strange occurrence from earlier. That was until I was awakened by a knock at the door to my flat. I was sleeping in the living room, so I heard it right away. I checked my phone, and it was 4 a.m. An unsettling sensation creeped into me as I was gathering the courage to go and look through the peephole. Then there was a knock again. I finally got up and pulled away the cover off my peephole. There was that same strange man from earlier, his head very close to the peephole. I cannot describe what a grotesque sight that was. He could see me watching him and smiled. I could make out his features better this time. He had piercing blue eyes, black, greasy hair, and a hooked nose. The best words to describe his face expression are creepy and disturbing, as his large smile didn't go up to his eyes, and his teeth were really clean and white. He also seemed to be well-dressed. He didn't strike me as a homeless man at all. Me observing him took about 2 seconds, and then he started waving at me while quietly giggling. That sound and the hand gesture pushed me over the edge. My heart sank and I instinctively pulled away from the door. I grabbed a knife that was in the kitchen, as I didn't own a bat, pepper spray, or a taser. I was walking towards the farthest spot in my house from the entrance when I heard the most horrifying sound. He was trying the door repeatedly and pushed hard on it many times, hoping that it would break free from the lock. When I heard this, I called the police and explained the situation in a quiet voice. They said they would send someone. A good 20 minutes later, I was holding the kitchen knife, still in anticipation, without daring to look out the peephole again. I knew this guy was still standing at my door. I could hear him breathing, and he would try to push or kick the door again every few minutes or so. When the sirens emerged in the distance, I let out a sigh of relief. As they came, the guy was nowhere to be found. I didn't hear him leave, so he must have slipped away quietly. The police questioned me, and I provided the man's description to them. In the morning, my mom responded and said that she did not know anybody who matched the description of the man that I had described to her. I told her what happened and offered a better description of the man. She still had no clue. 2 years have passed since then, and no other occurrences have happened. I don't know exactly what his intentions were or how he knew about my family, but I was paranoid for a while. I was a 14-year-old boy when this happened. I usually felt safe at home and didn't think much about danger or anything like that. My parents were out for the evening and wouldn't be back until very late at night, so the house was mine for a few hours. Wanting some company, I called 2 of my friends and asked if they wanted to come by. They both said yes and told me that they would get there at around 6 or 7 p.m. respectively. I watched TV and messed around on my phone to pass the time until my first friend arrived. When he got there, we talked for a bit, and then we headed out to go wait for my other friend at the park down the road. There, we would meet him on his walk over from his place. I locked the front door, put the keys in my pants pocket, and we headed off. We waited at the park until about 7:30, but my friend ended up canceling on us. After standing around for a while and getting bored, we decided to head back to my house. When we got there, I reached into my pocket to grab my keys, but they weren't there. I checked all my pockets again and started to panic a little, thinking I had lost them somewhere. Before I could say much, James tried the door and it just opened. It was unlocked. We both just assumed that I must have left the keys inside on the side table and accidentally forgotten to lock the door. Even though I was almost certain that I had locked it, the keys were exactly where they usually were. We shrugged it off and just went inside. For the next few hours, we played Xbox, talked about random stuff, and didn't think much more about it. Around 10 p.m., James said that he had to head home. So I walked him to the door and locked it behind him. Not long after he left, I went to grab my phone and realized that it wasn't where I had left it. I found it on the floor and the screen was smashed into pieces to the point where it was unusable. I figured James must have knocked it off accidentally and didn't want to admit it, especially since he left in a hurry. Annoyed but tired, I went upstairs and laid in bed watching TV. About 10 minutes later, it occurred to me that if my phone was broken, I should probably make sure that the landline was nearby in case I needed to call my parents. I went downstairs to look for it, and that's when I found it broken as well, in pieces behind the couch. That's when I completely lost it. I started freaking out, ran out of my house, and sprinted to my neighbor's place. I was shaking and basically begged them to let me use their phone. I called the police, and when they arrived, they searched my house. That's when they found a very small-sized man hiding inside my bedroom wardrobe, holding a 10-inch knife. My parents were called immediately, and when they arrived, they just held me while I cried. I must have thought I dropped the keys in my pocket when I left for the park, but accidentally dropped them on the ground right outside my door. The whole experience taught me a lot about safety and being aware of my surroundings. Lessons that stuck with me later in life, especially after having more encounters with creepy people. My mother was a head night shift nurse for a rich health clinic where people would pay thousands of dollars to stay for 6 weeks to cure them of whatever illness. It was also in the middle of nowhere on 600 acres of land. The crazy thing about this place, though, was since it had a lot of wilderness, it was known to have a lot of strange activity. I don't think that's related, but here's my story of when we lived there. This happened when I was 12 years old. Our one-story home was at the top of a hill where there was only one other house not too far from us. My mom, like every night, would drive her car to the clinic, which was roughly a little more than a mile away. You could always tell when she would be coming or leaving because there wasn't any pavement, and it was strictly rocks and gravel, so the car would be extremely loud in the dead quiet of night. Earlier in the week, she had lost her main set of keys and had been using her spare. That night, I was sitting in my bedroom playing PlayStation when all of a sudden, I got a heavy mental push to turn everything on. I turned off all the lights, faced the wall, and pretended that I was sleeping. My heart was racing for no reason since I was just laying there in bed. But no more than 5 minutes later, I heard my front door open. Yet, I didn't hear any car drive up. Our house was small with wooden floors. From the entrance, I heard heavy footsteps slowly walking through the living room, as if whoever was there was searching for something. They continued to walk into the kitchen, which my room was directly connected to. They turned a light on in the kitchen. At this point, my heart was pounding so hard, but my mental urge was screaming at me to not move or make a sound. The steps walked through the kitchen and stopped at the entrance, overlooking where I was fake sleeping. It felt like an eternity as I helplessly laid there with my eyes closed, focused on not moving while this person just stared at me. After who knows how long, the person slowly walked out of my home and left. I waited anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes before moving, just in case they were waiting for me to get up and turn the lights on in the house. I called my mom to see if she had randomly stopped home. She said no, and I told her what happened. We ended up changing the locks and adding a bar lock. I think a guardian angel was watching over me, because there was no reason for me to suddenly want to go to bed that quickly other than the feeling that I had. It was so strange because it wasn't that late, like 11 p.m., and it was summertime, so I didn't have to wake up for school. Nothing was missing from the house that we knew of. We think someone found my mom's keys, but exactly who? We have no idea, because they would not have known where we lived and if those keys were hers. That was one of the creepiest things that's ever happened to me. But there were so many stories from when we lived in that area that I could tell. Just a creepy area in general.